Alright, next. Once the requirements have been captured, stated, however you want to call it, the next step happens in the design phase. Alright, we're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. Design phase. During the design phase, the product is designed. Okay, well, I mean, it kind of makes sense if this is the design phase that the product gets designed. But what does that really mean? Let's read this next bullet. The technical team designs the internal and external workings of the new product designs the internal and external workings of the new product to changes, including choosing what technology to leverage. Okay, so they're developing. They're basically sitting down, and they're going to decide on how the software is going to look, and how is it going to work internally. How is it going to look externally to the user? Well, we're going to put a button here. We're going to put a cool color here. We're going to put a couple fields over here. We're going to use an Oracle database or a SQL database. We're going to use the new .NET technology. So, this is when the technical team, these people who are very technical, sit down and they come up with a design plan. That design is another document, and it's called the Functional Design Doc. So now we have a third doc here. Third doc. The Functional Design Doc is created and handed off to the development team. So we've got the technical team. These are designers. They're the ones who come up and they sit down and they have to think of how they're gonna take the business and technical requirements and how's this application gonna look? How's it gonna work internally? This design gets put into a document. It's called the Functional Design Doc. Okay. This Functional Design Doc, another document that I'm going to show you, should have references to how it's going to look on the outside and work on the inside. And then this Functional Design Doc, once finalized, is then going to go to the development team to get built. So again, this is looking at it from building a house perspective. The design, this is the architect taking the business and technical requirements and coming up with the cool architectural diagram, blueprint of how that house is going to look. They know what the business wants. They want 4 bedrooms. They want a pool in the back. They want 3.5 baths. They want a cellar. They want all these things. From a technical team, we're going to need to use this type of pipe, this type of board. I mean, I'm just giving you hypothetical, kind of help you picture this in another way. This design is this is the blueprint that says exactly what it should look like, what it should look like inside, outside. Then it goes to the builders. Now we got the development team. So we talked about project managers, we talked about business analysts, we talked about subject matter experts. And now we're talking about, I think I mentioned the designers. Okay, the technical team. You got system designers. I'm just calling them technical team for now. The development team, these are the people that will actually write the code. They sit behind their computers all day typing code. They build the application. They put it together. They make the magic happen. All right. They take that design doc and they create the system, the application, the solution. All right. So that's what designing is all about. This is when the design is done. They haven't built it yet. All I said was the design gets handed off to the development team. Handed off. I didn't say we built the application yet. That's what the next phase is for. Okay? I wonder what it's called. It is now time for the application to be built by the development team. In what? In the build phase. Makes really common sense, doesn't it? We put together the plan. We define the requirements. We design how the system is going to look and work internally. Then we build it. That's pretty simple, I think. So we give it to the developers, and they build the system. During this phase, the product and or changes to an existing product, I keep putting the and or, is developed. It's coded. It's programmed. Okay, let's just ignore for right now this piece. Alright, so the developers develop the system. This is just an extra bonus for you guys. Okay, typically the technical components, we've got a new phrase here, component. The components are developed by separate team members and then later put together. It's kind of like, I always like to do my favorite phrase. Well, it's kind of like building how a car gets put together. Every part of a car gets built by somebody else, and it all comes together in the end. Every part of a car gets tested by itself, then it comes together. A program is the same thing. I mean, if you have a large application, you don't just have one or two guys sitting there programming. It is divided into components and then assigned to different people to develop. If we were developing a application, let's try to picture that application as a pizza pie. We're going to slice that pie into different pieces, into components. Let's say we were developing software for an ATM machine. We've got the piece of pie that has to do with withdrawals. A customer making withdrawals. Can they withdraw the minimum amount, the maximum amount? They should be able to withdraw from their checking, from their savings, from their different checking accounts. We're going to have the checking balance as another component. Someone else will develop that piece. Oops. Big arrow, I went overboard there. The next component is maybe doing deposits. Depositing a check, depositing cash. Withdraw, checking balance, doing deposits. Maybe the next and last piece is transferring. I should be able to transfer money from checking to savings. From savings to checking. Mine always goes from savings to checking because I always spend it, but most people go the other way around. They go checking to savings. But one of these days I'll be doing more checking to savings other than savings to checking. Anyway, an application is divided up into components, and each developer works on their separate piece. And in the end, it all comes together. Kumbaya. Kumbaya. No, I'm not going to sing. It all comes together. So, before the developers are completely finished, they do their own testing. They're not just gonna give us an application that they didn't do any testing on, right? If I'm a programmer and I'm developing code, I want to make sure before I hand it off to have it all put together, or even after I have it all put together, I want to make sure I test my part first. Okay, I'm not going to test it like the QA analysts will test it, but I don't want the QA analyst to find a bunch of defects in my code. So developers do test. Their testing is called unit testing. Oh, there I did it. I went overboard with my arrow. It's called unit testing. The developers will make sure that whatever they developed works. At least they try. If they did it perfectly, they would never need us, the QA testers, right? We wouldn't have a job probably. So, during the build stage, this is when the functional design doc is taken. The developers develop the system. Maybe they just change it, whatever. They develop it brand new. Maybe they're changing some stuff. Once each developer finishes their piece, they're going to test it. They're going to do some testing. They're going to do what's called unit testing. It's called unit testing because they're testing each unit by itself. A component is kind of like a unit. These are, I could probably interchange these. They do component testing. They do unit testing. Sometimes people call it unit testing. Sometimes they might even call it component testing. This is all okay. The application is built here. That's me with a little bit of hair. No, I actually still have my hair. Kidding. All right. Trying to keep you guys awake. Well, next logical thing here, you guys. Sorry, didn't even read this last bullet. This is something I just want to touch on real quick, and we're going to touch on it when we get to advanced. There are different types of development methods. And one of those types is called waterfall, and other types is called agile. It does make changes to how testing is done. I don't want you to even worry about it or think about it right now. I'm just mentioning it, throwing it out there, putting it in your head a little bit. We're going to talk about these different and more advanced topics after hands-on. After hands-on. Okay. Those of you who have some IT knowledge, IT background, you might have heard of these. It's just different development methods. Not everybody develops things the same way. You got, the world is made up of many different personalities and minds and opinions, and just like there's many different types of development programming languages, right? There's .NET, there's Java, there's C++, there's Visual Basic, there's this, there's that, there's Windows, there's Apple, there's Honda, there's Toyota. Everybody has choices. Well, there are some different types of development methods. And, these are the main ones, waterfall and agile. We'll talk more about this later. I'll give you a lot of stuff to read about this. But I want to save it until you understand testing. And you understand how testing is done, too. Okay. Let's move on.